I feel like a lot of training is all about doing the things that you don't really like doing. I know it sounds funny, but really the things that you don't enjoy doing are probably going to be the things that you're not really good at. So if you spend a lot of time focusing on the things that are your weaknesses, you're probably going to be a better lifter, a better individual as a whole. I remember back in the basketball days, one of the glaring weaknesses I had was going left off the dribble. My left hand was always a struggle for me. I could lay it up, but if there's any sort of contest, it would just be a miss every single time. I had trouble exploding to the left, so I was kind of like a right hand dominant player. Obviously you shoot with the right hand, and I always wanted to go right. I could go left, but my left would kind of drive would always end up with a kick out or something like this. I would never take it to the rack with my left hand. So similar to that kind of scenario, as a lifter, as a power lifter, or Olympic lifter, whatever you want to call it, really the most of our efforts should be spent in those movements which are going to make us better. So if you think about squatting motion, you've got the front squat, you've got the back squat, you've got all sorts of squats, but I think there should be some sort of relationship between the front and the back in terms of some ratio. The best I've ever front squatted was 170 kilos, and that was kind of, I think, late last year when I heavily focused on front squats. I didn't do anything other than front squats. Now, I'm not as good in front squats. I've improved my back squat, but my front squats haven't kind of gone with it. Today, I started off with these hanging leg raises, as you see. Definitely a focus of mine, and I've put the bar on my back, as some of you guys recommended, to stop that swing. And this completely changes the intensity of the lift, of the exercise. This completely removes the swing and removes the momentum and just makes your core work that much harder. So, I started with this. I ended up doing 10 sets of 10 with this. Moved to back squats. Worked up to 200 kilos for one. I didn't feel I was strong enough. Kind of fatigued from yesterday. I wasn't strong enough to do my, I thought I was going to do 180 for 3 sets of 3. I didn't do that, so I decided to do front squats. And this is kind of the idea of the whole day, was kind of revolving around that. I have trouble with the front squats, with that front rack position. I feel like my upper back just caves in under any sort of significant weight. And so if I just work on that will improve. And I'm sure if your front squat improves, your back squat improves. It's like one of those things that, we spoke about in the comments yesterday. A lot of you guys brought this up. I mentioned in yesterday's video that my deadlift seems to go up just basically because of my squatting. So I've had a really good squatting period in the last sort of 2 months, if you will, maybe a month and a half, really, really solid squatting period. And what happened? I ended up with a 250 kilo PR in the deadlift. I did some deadlift size, movements, if you will. I did some rack pulls and I did some deadlifts, but I don't think that's responsible for the increase in the deadlift. Sort of like that, I feel like front squats do to back squats, kind of like back squats do to deadlifts. So I feel like if you, as a lifter, concentrate heavily on the front squats, I feel like your back squat will improve with the front squat. I honestly feel that. Now, obviously, it depends on how you back squat. If you back squat low bar and you're leaned over and you're doing sumo stance, like Louis Simmons' boys, do the West Side, then probably the carryover is going to be very little. But if you do a high bar back squat with some sort of moderate or narrow stance with a high bar position, ATG, I feel like you're going to improve if your front squat improves. So there are some of these kind of relationships when it comes to training, when it comes to exercises, that is just more bang for your buck. And especially, in the case of the deadlift, you can do a lot more weight with the deadlift. In the case of the back squat, you can do a lot more back squatting than you can do front squatting. So in a way, you can. It's funny how I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about this. If you want to increase your back squat, front squat. If you want to increase your deadlift, back squat. That's kind of the relationship that I have in my mind. And so today I ended up doing 10 sets of 5 of the front squats, and I didn't really come in wanting to do this. I ended up trying 160. I worked up all the way to 160. Go 160, go down to the hole, and it just folded me over. I lost it. And so that kind of pissed me off a little bit, and I already kind of thought I was going to do 5 sets of 5. I ended up doing 10 sets of 5 because I was just kind of frustrated, with this upper back business. I can't maintain posture. And so I ended up doing that, and as I was doing the sets, I kept thinking to myself, I don't see this not carrying over to my back squat. Like literally right now I'm sitting here talking to you guys and my upper back is lit. Like literally I feel my traps pumped, like as though I did some shrugs. I feel my mid back pumped. I feel my lower back pumped, like not the typical lower back pump that I've been talking about recently. It's just all of my erectors and my traps have been worked. My quads I feel, right, which is usually unusual for me when it comes to back squatting. And also I feel my glutes. So I feel like in terms of, this was a lot of work. I did freaking 50 reps. So it's a lot of work. Even if I did that with back squats, I'd be feeling it. But it's kind of like a cheap way of going about your squat training. So it's making me think. In recent times, I've been doing a lot of front squatting, a lot more than sort of previous months. But as I was kind of going through the sets today, I kept thinking to myself about this relationship, spend more time front squatting. Still work up to your single in the back squat, because that's a skill, right? You need to practice with heavy weight on your back. You need to practice how to do the lift under heavy weight and practice bracing and all that. Still do that. But in terms of back off sets, maybe just do back off sets for front squats. It's cheaper on the recovery because you're using less weight. You're using less weight, but it's still a freaking fight, right? It's still a freaking fight, because I'm sitting here, I'm telling you I'm going to be sore tomorrow. So it's not as cheap as one might think, purely just on the intensity of the lift, as in the weight. But I still think it's better than doing, 10 sets of 3 at 180 back squat. You know what I mean? Like that would just be all out war. So that's kind of where I'm thinking right now. I think I'm going to incorporate a lot more front squatting in the near future. I feel like I want to hesitate, but I feel like I want to say that I want to improve my front squatting in the next sort of month. Obviously, back squat is still going to be in the picture. I'm still going to kind of work on that. But I don't want to let go of this type of workout too often. You know what I mean? I feel like I want to do this type of workout more frequently than doing the back off sets with the back squat. So this is kind of where I'm thinking right now. I've seen some crazy videos of these two Olympic weightlifters. I can't remember where they're from, somewhere in Europe. Two young lads, man. They're like 20 years old or 22 years old. And I think one of them's like front squatted, I feel like I'm going to get this wrong, like 250 or 270. Something ridiculous like this. I hope I'm not saying this incorrectly. I saw it maybe a few weeks ago. The dudes look like they don't even lift, like your typical Olympic weightlifter, not jacked, not anything like a powerlifter, not like a bodybuilder, but just that he just had an incredible vertical torso, and obviously with that comes really strong quads. So I thought that was really impressive, and when I saw that, I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, he must have a really good back squat as well. There's no way incorporating more posterior chain would lead to lesser weight on the bar. So I think that's something to work on. And it's a weakness. It's a weakness for me. I don't know what the ratios are supposed to be between the back squat and the front squat and the deadlift and all sorts of stuff. Like, I'm sure there's some people that kind of can give me some ratio. But in terms of, it probably depends on the leverages as well. If you've got really freaking long arms, you're going to be a better puller than a squatter, clearly. But now that I'm thinking to myself, like, I think I need to be a bit stronger in the movement where I'm more upright, kind of like a front squat. And my body responds really well to it. Like right now, like I feel wrecked because I'm not used to doing this to the same type of volume. So anyway, moving forward, I'm going to do a lot of front squatting. Moving forward, I'm going to do a lot of hip flexor work. And let's see where this kind of pans out. I think what happened yesterday is amazing. So continue doing squatting and think good things happen to me in terms of the deadlift. But I think a large portion of that is also the core work that I've done recently. I was so freaking confident with the 250 in my hands. My lower back felt so damn sturdy. And it's interesting, right? Because I haven't done lower back work. I've done pin squats, which you could argue is lower back work. I've done a lot of hip flexor work, which I feel like is the predominant, movement that's responsible for that strong feeling in the lower back. Because remember, your psoas originates from the lumbar spine, T12 to L5. So that fan muscle comes out. So if you have a really shitty psoas muscle and the psoas muscle cannot remain strong under load, what happens? You start to round. If you have a really strong psoas, what happens? You have a flat back. And so even though it seems your erectors, your lumbar erectors are weak, it could also be your psoas that's weak. And that's kind of manifesting in this lumbar flexion, but really it's a tug of war. It's like a team effort between the psoas, the hip flexors, and the lower back musculature. So it's interesting. So people that have lower back issues, like a few of you fellas commented last night, I feel like my lower back is rounding, those type of comments and questions. I just said, look, man, just work on your hip flexors. I know it's not intuitive to you, but if you think about it, if you look at a picture of psoas on Google Images, you'll see that this thing is clearly a player, involved in lower back integrity. So, yesterday I felt so damn strong with the thing in my hands. And, I went home last night and I kept thinking, maybe I had this strength in me for a while now in terms of posterior chain. Maybe my glutes have always been strong enough. Maybe my quads have always been strong enough to get this thing off the ground. But the complaint that I always had in the past was that my lower back just starts around. And when that happens, I don't want to grind that shit out, because you guys know my history with, my back kind of, fear. I don't want to injure my back. I don't want to grind weights out. So if it's not a really good form, I'm bailing on it. There's no point. It's training. I'm not setting a world record or anything like. There's nothing to gain from doing a cat deadlift on the way up. That's how I look at it anyway. So this hip flexor work has translated to me being really strong in my lower back. And so I'm thinking to myself, if I introduced this like 6 months ago, maybe my glutes, my hamstrings, my quads, all of that was ready. It's just my lower back didn't have the control. Because I can't see why, the posterior chain work that I did recently with the pink squats and all this sort of stuff would be responsible for this. Anyway, I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe it's all a little bit kind of rolled into one, and it's that's what kind of made the recipe. This thing pissed me off. I tried 160. The fella next to me started clapping. He was really happy. I think he was listening to some good music or whatever, and he kind of like threw me off. I was like, well, why is he clapping? Is he clapping for me? Anyway, I lost my kind of focus there for a little bit, and also I misgrooved it. Basically, I misgrooved it, and it folded me over. The bar kind of went, forwards of my midfoot, and it just 1 centimeter forward of that and crumbled. So that's what happened to me, and I was pissed off by that. And I wanted to do 5 sets of 5 with 100 kilos front squat. I ended up doing 10 sets of 5 because I was just pissed off, and I'm like, why is my damn upper back so damn weak? I've got to strengthen it. And how do we strengthen the upper back? More front squatting. This is my weakness. This is my left hand in my basketball days. Everybody sends me left because they know Ivan can't lay it up on the left side over some sort of contest. Everybody sends Ivan right. So when Ivan goes right, he sends me to the baseline. He sends me to a double team. And so I have to back off, or I have to kind of pull up for a contested shot. So, but if I have a left drive and a right drive, all of a sudden you can send me which way you can send me left, man. I'll burn you. I'll lay it up. So this is kind of how I'm thinking about this stuff. It's a weakness for me. I want to smash it, and so the defense are like, damn, Ivan's a threat both ways. I just have to see how he goes. So he doesn't kind of send me one way, because if you send a player too much one way, I'll just burn you the other way. So that's what I'm thinking. The front squat is a weakness. I'm going to attack it with more front squats, with more hip flexor work, and that's kind of where my mentality is right now. I feel I'm going to sleep like a freaking dead man tonight, like an absolute log. So I'm going to try and get as much food into me and have a good sleep, and then tomorrow, hopefully, I can do some sort of session tomorrow. We'll see how I sleep and how I recover. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.